The latest on Typhoon Koinu and Tropical Storm Philippe on today's Tropical Weather Bulletin. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for October 3rd. So we have our two storms that we already had, and another one has added to the list today. Lydia has formed in the Eastern Pacific, but we'll be focusing in on the two other storms because they have warnings in effect right now. 63 is the tally so far for this year, and we're code orange for Typhoon Koinu. Day 125 of Atlantic hurricane season, and Philippe is just prowling around the Lesser Antilles. There are tropical storm warnings in effect there. No other areas of interest though, which is good news right now for the next 5 or even 7 days. In the Eastern Pacific, we've of course got the formation of Tropical Storm Lydia, which is expected to become a Category 1 hurricane, and we've marked two other areas of interest with low chances at the moment. Central Pacific, an active system, and in the Eastern Pacific, a future system whose chances will probably increase a lot later on this week. Typhoon Koinu is on its way towards Taiwan, is getting pretty close now, still a Category 3 with winds of 115 miles per hour. Two other areas of interest we've got marked, one near Guam, which we're moving towards the Philippines, a weak system, another one behind it, which the GFS is certainly on board with becoming a very powerful storm, but no other models are with it yet, so only 10% on that right now. No areas of interest at the moment in the Indian Ocean, but of course we had that little flurry of activity last week with two systems that nearly got to storm status. So here's Typhoon Koinu right now, the Philippine name Jenny. Typhoon warnings for Taitung, Hualien, Pingtung, Kaohsiung City, and another location I didn't see there inland. Signal 2 warnings for the Philippines, the Batanes Islands. Signal 1 warnings for a large part of northern Luzon, and Gale Advisories for the southernmost Ryukyu Islands of Japan. The closest point of land is actually Ishigaki at 294 kilometers. Itbe at 308, Basco 311, Kaohsiung City 460, and Taipei at 485. Here's Tropical Storm Philippe, where we have tropical storm warnings for Barbuda, Antigua and Anguilla right now. It is just 14 kilometers from Anguilla, but it is moving northwestwards away from the island now. 28 from St. Martin, 156 from Anegada, part of the British Virgin Islands, 344 from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and 1567 from Bermuda. It'll be heading, of course, that way later on, and the National Hurricane Center no longer expects a hurricane in the 5-day forecast. They're sticking with a tropical storm now for that whole duration. So let's check satellite imagery. This is what Koinu is looking like this evening, and as you can see, its structure is slightly shattered compared to what it was yesterday, where it had a decent eye. Right now it's quite fractured, and possibly an eye wall replacement cycle going on or something in there. You can sort of see more of a concentric eye wall pattern when you look at the satellite. What will radar say though? We'll have a look at that in a minute, but still decent amounts of convection, especially on the southern sides, which is producing probably some serious amounts of rain. And here's the latest radar imagery there. Well, that shows more of a unified eye actually. As we look at that imagery, it's always useful to see the radar. And this is Philippe early morning images here, just as we're getting into the visibles, passing just northwest of Anguilla right now and continuing in that direction slowly away from the island. Now lots of precipitation of course, and that massive amount of convection on its southern side, which is producing lots of rainfall across the Lesser Antilles and Leeward Islands particularly, and that is slowly dragging itself westward. You can see the radar there, incomplete radar imagery showing a lot of that going on. And here's some imagery of Lydia, which has just formed. National Hurricane Center designating that at the last advisory. No warnings, it's moving out to sea, but there is a possibility that it might move back towards land later on in the model run, which we'll look at a little bit later on. But right now, not looking great, it has to be said, but I'm sure it will improve. Sea surface temperatures are very good off the coast of Mexico, over 30 degrees Celsius for large parts, including where Lydia is right now. Gulf of Mexico also really warm. Caribbean as well, Western Caribbean really looking very warm there. Where Philippe is, the temperatures are still around 30 degrees as well. They'll start to decrease a little bit as it gets towards Bermuda, and then off over the lower sea surface temperatures after that. Elsewhere in the Atlantic, still looking good. Western Pacific, also very decent temperatures, 30 degrees plus in large parts of the Philippine Sea and around Luzon. Where Koinu is, it's around 29 to 30 degrees, and that will continue up to its Taiwanese landfall. And then moving on westwards, those temperatures will still remain warm, especially if it goes further south. Now this is the North Indian Ocean, the Bay of Bengal looking good along the coast of India, 30 degrees in a couple of spots, and in the Arabian Sea getting back up to speed as well there, much cooler earlier on. And this is the Southwest Indian Ocean, where you can see quite a bit of warming temperatures there too, especially off the coast of Madagascar, Mozambique Channel, really warming up along the coast of Western Australia now, one or two spots getting close to 30 degrees, so it's getting ready to start up again. And in the South Pacific, it's slowly increasing around there, Vanuatu getting up to around 26, 27 degrees in a few places. Sea surface temperature anomalies look like this. Well, it's not changed too much in the last couple of weeks. Western Pacific is still generally above average, especially at the higher latitudes. Eastern Pacific still has that mix of cold and warm, but in the area that matters the most, off the coast of Mexico, well above average. Western Gulf of Mexico also well above average. Area near Philippe also above average, but decreasing as it gets further north. Eastern Atlantic also well above too. Oceanic heat content looks like this, extremely high values in large parts of the Caribbean Sea, moving up through the Bahamas, so a whole lot of energy waiting there. Eastern Pacific still got quite a bit as well, certainly much better than last year, has been the whole time here, so Lydia's got a good chance, and the Western Pacific as well, a few good spots there too, Koinu entering a small area of elevated numbers as well. So here's the GFS computer model for the Atlantic. There's Philippe, of course, and you can see it's struggling, and it starts to get itself better organized. It moves towards the north there, speeds up, and GFS still wants a hurricane out of that, moving fairly close to Bermuda, and eventually turning post-tropical quite close to Nova Scotia. It looks like it will impact there with hurricane force winds. Watch the close-up now. You'll be lucky if you manage to see Bermuda. It's so small on this chart, but it went by there, and then it moves off towards Nova Scotia with hurricane force winds. There's Lydia, and it's moving northerly at first, and then it will turn towards the west again. That's pretty much what the NHC have too, although GFS makes it a bit stronger, probably category 2 there, and it starts to stall near the end of that 5-day period. And that is where we will be having a decision point there on whether it's going to turn around or not, or whether it will just stay in place and not move very much. Well, here's Koinu, its upcoming landfall getting pretty close at hand now. We expect it will happen early or during the day on Thursday, and then continuing westwards and weakening rapidly there, and then possibly getting swept down towards the southwest. Watch the close-up then. Category 3 all the way to landfall according to the GFS, although the JTWC thinks it will weaken to Category 1 by then, and then it will lose what was left of its intensity after that, and another system coming up in the east there. Here's the rainfall expectations then for Koinu. Philippine name Jenny, of course, but it won't be affecting most of the Philippines too badly. Signal 1 warnings once again for northern Luzon, and Signal 2 for the Batanes Islands. But look at Taiwan, we're looking at very high amounts of rainfall once again still, and this is on top of anything that may have already fallen so far. I'm not sure if anything has, but we're expecting rainfall amounts moving forward up to 7 days, 26 inches there over the mountains of eastern Taiwan. That is that's nearly 650 millimeters of rain actually, and at very high amounts as well over the channel. If any of those islands get under the main part of the storm, then you could be looking at a huge amount of rain. For the Batanes Islands, maybe getting to 13-14 inches, 350 millimeters, and lower values off the northern coast of Luzon. Now here's the longer range then, day 5 to 10. What happens in the Eastern Pacific? Well, there it is. Lydia's coming back, and it hits the southern tip of the Baja California Peninsula, and a second storm forms there. That was that 10% that we marked, and moves on towards the coast of Mexico quite quickly as a tropical storm. So potentially 2 systems out of this upcoming week or week and a half, with Lydia certainly giving a significant visit there to the Baja California Peninsula again. Western Pacific, well, the GFS really has outdone themselves with this one. A big landfall there in Guam, but then it becomes much stronger, probably a Category 5 on this forecast, pressure down into the 910s. However, big caveat to that is that no other models are calling for this yet. So I would just hold your horses right there, because it doesn't look like that's going to happen at the moment. You can scan the barcode and take a look at the Force 13 merch store, where we have all of our usual items as well as our full season and individual storm animation packages for you as well. And we also have our still waiting for Hone t-shirts, because goodness me, we still are. Well, into the Scilly range then. First looking at the Atlantic, possibly another system starts to form in the main development region and goes on to affect the Lesser Antilles again there into the Eastern Caribbean. Here it is, trying to form early on, and then, well, eventually it does sort of get itself together near the Dominican Republic, and it strengthens and gets quite compact there near the coast of the Turks and Caicos Islands. Of course, that is a long way away, so I wouldn't put any faith into this happening just yet, but that is possibly a little window in what we might see getting towards the middle to later part of the month. Well, Western Pacific, that monster typhoon continues off towards the northeast, a recurvature, full recurvature there. It does affect Japan with tropical storm force winds, and then in its absence, two other systems try and get themselves going on either side of the Philippines as well, both of them getting to tropical storm strength before the end of that run. What happens to the big boy there? Well, it starts to move northeasterly, of course, passing close to Japan, but not too close by the looks of things, and then spreading out into an enormous, gargantuan extratropical cyclone, and really going on to affect the Bering Sea. You can talk about all of that and more in our Discord server, discord.gg/force13, for tropical weather and general weather chat from around the world. I'm sure they'll have a lot to say about that GFS run. Back to 2009 then, on this day, 14 years ago now, we had two big typhoon impacting potential storms there. Palma, which was a Category 2, just about to reach the coast of Luzon and really make some significant rain impacts there, which happened all season in the Philippines that year. And Melor, which was a powerful Category 4 at this point and strengthening as well, would end up becoming a Category 5. Tropical Storm Olaf was about to die off just before reaching the Baja California Peninsula. Well, it was going to downgrade to a depression, I should say. Still a tropical storm at this point. Back to today then, and the next name in the Atlantic is Sean. In the Eastern Pacific, it's Max, and in the Central Pacific, it is still Hone. 63 storms so far this year around the world, and we are still in code orange. And that is because of Koinu. The next name in the Western Pacific is Balavan, and in the North Indian Ocean it will be Tej. And pretty soon we'll start to see the rousing of the Southern Hemisphere. The next name in the Australian region is Jasper. Southwest Indian Ocean will start this season with Alvaro, and in the South Pacific it's going to be Lola. That's all from today's Tropical Weather Bulletin. Hopefully we'll be back with more tomorrow, if Koinu doesn't get fully in the way of that.